Live. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. Long time no see. Been about a week or two since I've made a video. My name is Chris, and this is We Love Comics. Sorry for the delay in making videos. With a bunch of people actually not paying their auctions, I actually had to go out into the real world and sell a couple of things. So got myself back on track, paid off a lot of my PayPal credit, and I'm able to make some purchases again, which I cannot stress enough how using PayPal credit the right way can really help you be able to acquire books that you might not have been able to get before, which is what inspired me to do payment plans for my auctions. But I got my first comic of 2026 in, and I would like to do an unboxing for you. I got a bunch coming. Some are coming today, but you know how the Postal Service is. If they say anywhere between 12 o'clock in the afternoon and 8 o'clock at night, that means they'll drop it off at 9 at night. So if they do show up today, I'll make a video tomorrow. But I got a bunch of key books I'm really looking forward to sharing with you guys. Something new I might consider to do with live chats. As you can see, there's a goal that I created. If I get 10 super chats on any live broadcast, I will pick one of the people that did the super chat and I will give out a silver dime as a prize to somebody. So if 10 people do any amount for super chats, I will do a raffle and one of the lucky winners will receive a either 1964 or earlier, it depends on what I grab, but it'll be a silver dime, and I will mail it anywhere in the world, and I will pay the postage and everything. It's my way of saying thank you. So we got Nate Dogg in the house. Good to see you. Shout out to all my Patreon members. If you want to support my channel, and especially helping with the stray animals that I take care of, and if you think that's a good cause, you can go to patreon.com/we love comics. All paid Patreon members get early access to any of my auctions. So before anybody else is aware of what is going to be sold in the auctions, you actually have the chance to make offers on them before anybody else. And if I accept your offer, it never sees the light of day of the auctions. You don't have to worry about, being busy on the day of the auction and missing it or forgetting, going into a bidding war and spending more than you really wanted to, or being outbid. These are benefits. So patreon.com/We Love Comics. You'll get your name up here. I still have to make sure I give a shout out to Brian Hood, one of my newest Patreon members. With all the things going on, I just haven't updated it. So I want to at least give out a verbal shout out to Brian Hood and show him that I appreciate his Patreon membership. So if I ever get to 20 paid members, we got some giveaways. Not been able to give away any yet, but hey, you never know. This might be the year. So if we get 20 paid members in any given month, one of the paid members, I will raffle off all these different tiers depending on the amount of people. I will ship it anywhere around the world, so you don't have to worry about it being something that's domestic only, and I will pay for the shipping, so you can figure that out if you want to do it. And for every $2, I'm sorry, for every $2 you contribute, you get an entry. So the more you contribute, the more chances that you could win. So with that being said, here is not a box, but it could have been worse. It could have been one of those manila envelopes. I always tell people, don't ever assume, especially on eBay, that a person cares or knows about how to ship books, because it's not always the newer people that don't ship books properly many times. I've seen people with 100% rating with literally hundreds, if not thousands, of previous sales, and they'll send them in manila envelopes. So I always recommend to people, reach out to the sellers, tell them how you'd like it to be sent. Sometimes they listen, sometimes they do not. But hey, the times they listen are what matters. And I cannot wait to show you some of the books I'm going to be getting, some of the deals I got. I really wish people would follow my advice on how to change your thought process of how to collect and how to invest, because you could literally make a career of doing something that you love, which is having comic books. You can upgrade your collection over time without spending your own money. All right, so they put it in an extra bag and board, which is always nice. They used packing tape, which I highly recommend you do not do. Go out, ladies and gentlemen, go to Home Depot or wherever. and get yourself painter's tape because it will make things so much easier. All right, so let's show the book. Let's see, we got Comic Mike also in the house, so welcome. And when you first see it, you'll be like, oh, why'd you get that? I'll explain, and then I'll tell you the price I paid. So we have Amazing Spider-Man. This is issue 312, Todd McFarlane art. You'll notice that it has barcode, which means it is a newsstand variant. This is not a Mark Jewelers variant, but you'll also notice not only is it signed by Todd McFarlane, and I have so many of his signatures, I am 99.9% sure that is a legit signature of Todd McFarlane's, but I also signed by the late great Stan Lee. And again, I have numerous Stan Lee signatures, and that looks really realistically his signature. So a dual signed newsstand. I wish it was a Mark Jewelers, but is not. You know what? They might not have known, so that would be even cooler. We're going to open it up just to double check. Because somebody that may not have known what a Mark Jewelers is. Okay, so it is not a Mark Jewelers, which is fine because they did list it as a newsstand. But hey, if you see a barcode, double check because you never know. Somebody might not have been aware of what a Mark Jewelers variant is and might have sold you something much more rare. But like I said, I knew this was a newsstand variant. So let me ask you, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, if you saw this book, because this was they put a price or best offer, what would have been the highest you would have paid for this book? Now, remember, there's no certificate of authenticity or anything, but these days COAs don't really mean much anyway. But that's why I recommend you analyze signatures. And how do you do that? You can go to a yellow labeled CGC book or a yellow labeled um, CBCS or even a witnessed PGX book, and you can compare the signatures. Now, of course, each person's signature is never going to be identically the same, but there's certain things that will help determine if something is legit or not. Like I said, I've had so many of these, both of their autographs, without actually being there to witness it. I could say these look very legit. You can make up your own minds as well. But in the live chat, if you're live, put in the live chat, how much would you have paid to acquire this book? Because it was a buy it now best offer. So I really think around issue 312 is when Todd McFarlane's art really started to shine. Because I noticed the books before this issue, his drawings were very small. Like he wasn't allowed to really give his full artwork. And right from this issue, he started doing like close-up shots where there was more ability to see the detail and everything. And I just really think this is one of his better pieces on Amazing Spider-Man runs. I mean, obviously, people can argue if Hulk 340 is the best Todd McFarlane, but we'll leave it up to you guys. What in the comment section, whether you're live or watching this later, put in the comment section, what is your favorite Todd McFarlane cover? Is it a Spawn issue? Is it Amazing Spider-Man? Is it when he did the Hulk? Or is it many other things where he started his career? Maybe his Batman run where he did a couple of covers? Put it in the comment section. So, no one listed it of what they would pay for it. That's okay. They had this listed at $275, buy it now, or best offer. To me, best offer, unless it's a steal. In other words, if I see $1,000 comic and somebody lists it for $100 best offer, I'm not even going to attempt to make a best offer because by the time I hit enter, somebody else will grab it. So when I see a buy it now best offer, even if I think to buy it now is reasonable or about what it's worth, I'll take a chance. If it's something that's so below the value of the book, I am not even going to make a best offer because, like I said, somebody else will grab it before you'll even get a reply from the seller, even if they see it instantly. So this wasn't one of those times where this was too good to be true. But still, at $275, that's not a bad price for this book because Stanley's signature alone raises the value of a book between $100 and $150 just for that signature alone. Todd McFarlane's between 25 and 75. So you're talking between the two about $200 just for the signatures, which would mean if you paid cover price for the book, you would think the regular minimum value would be about $201.25. Oh, it's a $1. So minus the 25 cents. So $275 for a newsstand. Now it does have some indents on the back, but they are non-color break creases, so a pressing will help that. Um, would this get a 9.8? I don't know, but let's assume it goes as low as a 9.0. I don't even think it would be that low because I don't see any ticks along the spine, and the only damage I saw was on the back, but it's all pressable stuff. Say anywhere between a 9.4 to a 9.8 possible. So Comic Mike says he would pay $200 for this book. Brian Hood, one of my moderators and one of my paid Patreon members, welcome. So this is Amazing Spider-Man 312, signed by the late great Stan Lee. Newsstand variant, also signed by Todd McFarlane. So they had it for $275. I gave them an offer of $150, which they accepted. So after shipping and handling and taxes, I paid a grand total of $160.50 for this book. And the best part is for me, I send in 4 books each month to PGX, where they will allow me for $50, which includes return shipping. They'll press, dry clean, grade, and do signature verification for that $50 fee. And that's why I do the advertisements every month. For me, this is a no-brainer. So $160.50 for Amazing Spider-Man 312, high grade once pressed and dry cleaned. Newsstand variant signed by Todd McFarlane and Stan Lee. You can't ask for a better version of that comic unless, like I said, the only thing that would really top it is if it was a um, newsstand variant with the Mark Julius insert, but that it does not have. So I'll be really happy to take this one. Like I said, I have more books on their way, some really great books, some really great deals, and I'd love to hear your opinions. But like I said, from now on, what I'm going to do, since this is new, there's not a lot of people in the live chat. If I get 10 people during the live chat, do a super chat. I will randomly pick one of the people and I will give away a silver dime that has 90% silver in it for free as a thank you. So from now on, any live video I do, if I get 10 super chats, it doesn't matter the amount that they contribute. Um, I will raffle one lucky participant that did the super chat will have a chance to win a silver 90% silver dime, and I will mail it anywhere in the world, and I will pay the shipping and handling. So this is my first time coming up with this idea, so it might take a little while before it happens, but we'll see. So thank you so much for watching. And since we got Nate Dogg, Comic Mike, and Brian Hood in the house, all 3 of you will be today's surprise subscriber shoutouts. Yeah, Brian is talking about how about the gold price. Yeah, if people ever looked at my my other YouTube channel, Barnun11970, which I haven't made a post in about a year because they've blocked it pretty much on my end because they don't like people who speak truth on YouTube and Google. But I've been recommending people look into physical gold and silver since 2012. And if people would have listened, because I like many things, I got attacked by people for years. People would criticize me and say I was wrong or say I was crazy. But I held on and I told people it's like blowing into a balloon. If you keep continuously blowing air into a balloon, you know eventually it will pop. But because a balloon is elastic and will stretch, you will not know the moment that it will pop. So the thing is to consider is the more air you blow into a balloon, the higher and the harder and the harsher the explosion once it does pop. And I used to always tell people when it comes to especially any kind of investment, better to be 10 years too early than 10 seconds too late. And silver and gold are at all-time highs. We'll put it in perspective. If people would have purchased any silver coin just on January 1st of this year, you would already be up 30%. Try getting that on the stock market. So put that in perspective. If you would have spent $100 on a silver bar on January 1st, that $100 silver bar would be worth $300 approximately. And it hasn't even been a month. Consider that. But like I said, I am so ahead of people, like even here on the comic channel. I was recommending books back in 2016, 2017 that are still going to apply to this day. And people never paid attention because I was always just ahead of the curve. Same thing with gold and silver. I was telling people since 2012, and you can go on my other channel to see that I talked about it so much. But I used to get attacked. I used to get ridiculed. I used to get insulted. Of course, many people would unsubscribe and not listen because they thought I was crazy. And I ended up being right. You know, the best way I can analyze it is if you're standing on a train track, I can predict that eventually you're going to get hit by a train. But I can't say on January 17th at 3:47 p.m. Eastern Time with 38 seconds left on the clock, you're going to be hit at that moment because you don't know. But if you stand on the track, eventually you're going to get hit. So when it came to knowing what was going to happen with the prices of precious metals in the physical form, I knew days like this were coming. And this is just, if you're playing baseball, this is only about the second going into the third inning. So it's not done, despite what you'll hear on the mainstream media. But I always knew that the prices were going to reach these and higher levels. I just never could tell anybody when. So when years went by, people got frustrated and said, "Oh, I can't deal with this. You're wrong, or you're crazy, or you're, drinking the Kool-Aid." And that's how they got many people to stay away from these investments, by making it seem so boring and take so long that people just did not have the patience. And how many times have I said, even on this channel, when it comes to comic books, if you cannot be patient with your investments at certain times, you shouldn't invest. But you also should know how to invest where you don't have to be patient, where you can turn around and find and make deals and turn around and make more income so you can use that to invest in bigger and better things. That's how you end up having other people buy your items. By, for example, buying a comic for $100 and have that comic worth 500, turn around and sell it for 400, so the buyer's happy that they spent 100 less than what it's really valued as. You're still making extra profit over what you paid, and you can take that extra money to buy a better book. Again, waiting for a deal. That's where the patience comes in. Stop the fear of missing out. That's how they get most people, because instead of rational thought and patience, people have the fear of missing out and they use emotion to react instead of process. And that is dangerous. And that's why most people fail. Even if you look on YouTube in the gold and silver channels or investment channels or even comic book channels, many of them are going to give you advice that may sound good. It may be what you want to hear, but ultimately in the end screws you over. Well, it makes some few people very wealthy, taking advantage of knowing that most people are just going to be reactionary instead of proactionary, if that is a word. So with that being said, Brian and I do agree with this. So he says, we're killing it. I agree. And like I said, think of what's going on in the world as a baseball game. We're only in the top of the second, bottom of the third. So if you think the prices that you see with these metals are the top, as they say, you ain't seen nothing yet. But keep in mind, this is one of the warnings I will give people. There always is a potential of a correction that could go 20, 30, even 50% before it makes the newest all-time high. That's what they call scaring out the weak hands. So if you see, like, for example, silver possibly, and it's not impossible at this point, let's say silver gets to $100 an ounce. It's already around 93, 94. It's gotten as high as 95. I think it was 95.80. Let's say it gets to 100, and a bunch of people that never knew what they were doing and never researched it and just buying because everybody else is buying, on the fear of missing out, all of a sudden it goes from 100, shoots down to 50 and stays there for 2 months. How many people are going to panic sell thinking, oh, I got, bamboozled. I shouldn't have trusted that person. Well, sometimes you need that lower to get rid of those weak hands so the smart people can buy it all up and watch it go from 100 down to 50, and then from 50 up to 150, 200, 250. And all the people that were at 100 that saw it go down to 50 and got scared and sold at 50 lost 50% of their income. Instead of, if they would have held on, they would have quadrupled their money. But that's the difference between people that follow other people and use emotion and the people that are smart, patient, do research, and have knowledge. Same thing with comic collecting, ladies and gentlemen. You have to see when prices of comic books, for example, are starting to go down. I see all the time the bigger channels that everybody follows, they're doom and gloom and negative Nancy's talking about, oh, the market's done and the comics are crashing and this is the end. No, it's fluctuation. If you think Amazing Fantasy 15 is going to go from, let's say a 1.0. If you think an Amazing Fantasy 15 at a 1.0 is going to go from, let's say, $17,000, you think it's going down to $10, good luck with that. But it can go from 17,000 down to 10,000. The smart people buy it at 10,000 knowing it was at one point at 17,000. Because what will happen is once things level out and reach a plateau, it can shoot past 17,000 and go up to 20,000, 25,000. Now, I'm not saying that's a guarantee, but things fluctuate. If you cannot ride those waves, you shouldn't surf. And if you want to listen to popular channels that are going to tell you everything that you want to hear, the best advice I can give you is a fool and their money are soon parted. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, they may have good intentions. But if you've ever heard the expression, drowning in good intentions, this is what I add to it. Drowning in good intentions is still drowning, not something you want. So if you're drowning because somebody pushed you under the water, that's bad. But if you're drowning because somebody accidentally threw you into the water and didn't know you couldn't swim, you're not going to sit there and say, oh, it's okay, they meant well. You're still drowning. So if you're not willing to learn and take the time and have patience, well, then don't be surprised you fail more than you succeed. So that's my sermon. Very few people will listen to it. And to me, it does not matter. But here's the one thing I will tell you. I want not just myself to succeed. I want all of you that pay attention to succeed. Because if I succeed and keep it to myself, well, I'm selfish. If I succeed and I mislead you, I'm a mean and bad, horrible person. But if I succeed and you succeed, then everybody's happy. That raises the excitement level of the things you're collecting, like comic books, which can attract more people into it. So if you want people to get excited about comics and you're listening to doom and gloomers that tell you everything's over, what incentive does a new person watching that have to say, you know what? Now's the time to buy some comics. If you listen to these bigger channels that are, oh, the market's done and the comics are crashing and you're going to lose your investment, what new person is going to hear that stuff and say, gee, I so am inspired. I so want to buy comics. So what does that do? That keeps new people away. And what does that do to prices? Keeps them low. Why? Because new people aren't coming in pushing the prices up. People don't understand psychology. If you were excited about comics, like the way I try and promote them, and tell people how you can be inspired if you work hard, if you do your due diligence, if you have patience, if you know what you're doing, and you're excited about that, and a new person listens to my video, they may be inspired and say, you know what? Like, how many people have never made a comic book video until I inspired them to do it? Many people, including many that hate me now. I've inspired, whether they want to admit it or not, and I'm not going to mention any names, but I inspired them. Why? Because I wasn't doom and gloom. Oh, everything's so bad, everything's so horrible. No, I was inspiring, trying to tell people you can reach whatever limit that you set. But somebody new can listen to me and say, you know what? This person makes sense. I feel excited about it. I'm going to try and buy a comic. And if you get a lot of people all of a sudden that are new getting into an investment that you are holding on to yourself, what does that do to the prices? If more people come in, does that raise the value or does it lower the value? People don't know how to process. So if you want to keep listening to these bigger channels that are doom and gloom, going to tell you everything that you want to hear instead of paying attention and doing your own due diligence, and wonder why the market is staying stagnant because they have no inspiration to inspire anybody new to come in, which would bring more revenue into the industry, which would raise values of the things that these people are complaining are going down. Hello, McFly. And yet I'm the most hated comic book, or one of the most hated comic book channels on the internet. Stupid is as stupid does. So the very few people that are listening right now, the 3 or 4 people on my channel, and maybe the 10 or 20 that will follow once this uploads, I thank you, because I care more about the 5 or 6 people that I can help inspire to better their lives than the 600 or 700 that will do nothing but point and complain, criticize, and attack. Because that says more about who they are as a human being than who I am by what they claim me to be without knowing me. So with that sermon part 2 done, thumb it up, thumb it down. Do what you want. Subscribe, unsubscribe. Listen to my advice, ignore my advice. Your choice, do as you will. But at least you'll say, I'm not telling you what you want to hear. I'm not trying to mislead you for my own personal gain. I'm not trying to sell you information. I give it out freely. And I'm trying to inspire you instead of depress you. So the next time you watch any of these bigger comic book channels, listen to how they talk. Listen, look at their thumbnails, where they're all sitting there like this, like they're trying to star in Home Alone Part 27. I mean, these are grown adults that are making thumbnails like that. You know, if you're Gen A, I can see you doing that. But when you're 30 and above and you're making thumbnails like that because you know it will get people to look, I mean, you can, but it does make you somebody that you shouldn't take seriously. Because when was the last time you saw somebody like Warren Buffett making a thumbnail like this to get your attention? He just speaks and people listen because they respect him. So if you have to trick people or do little things like this to get somebody to click on your thumbnail, maybe your information is not as good as you pat yourself on the back to think you have. And I'm not singling anyone out, because you can go all over YouTube. How many people make those ridiculous thumbnails? You'll notice, look at every single thumbnail I've ever put up on either of my channels, either this one or my other one. You'll never see me like this, like I'm Home Alone Part 96. Listen to the information. So the next time you listen to any big channel, listen to their doom and gloom. Listen to or read their thumbnails about how the comic market is crashing, how the comic market is over, how you're losing all of your money, how you're this doing wrong, how you're doing wrong, and say to yourself, is that going to inspire some new person to come into the market? And if no, then ask yourself this: why are you listening to those people? A fool and their money are soon parted. Now, I'm no Bill Gates, I'm no Warren Buffett, and I definitely don't have Bill Gates and Warren Buffett money. But I'd like to think I kind of know what I'm talking about when it comes to being able to use minimal amounts of money to be able to upgrade your collections to the point where they become very impressive by using other people's money. Now, I don't mean stealing it. I mean making deals happen, waiting for deals happen, turn around and sell them for a profit, use that profit to be able to buy a bigger book and keep escalating. It can take you 5 years, it can take you a decade, but if you go through it, you can succeed. And this is why I used to tell people, when silver was at around $17 an ounce, I was trying to convince my sister to buy silver. And she said, well, I can't afford it. Now, $17 silver can go as far back as over a decade ago, 10 years. So I told her roughly around 10 years ago. And she said, well, I can't afford it. So what did I say? I said to her, buy 1 silver dime once a month, which at the time would have probably cost you $2 to $3, maybe with spot prices. Let's just say $4 for a silver dime. and you bought $1 a month for 10 years, how much silver would you have now? Where it's at $95 an ounce. So this is why I want to help people, but this is also why I get hated, because I'm not in a suit and tie. I'm not having fancy videos. I'm not telling you what you want to hear. I'm not owning a giant comic book store where I can try and influence people to buy all these brand new variants where they hoard 1,000 of them and try and tell you they're rare and then ship them out. People that don't understand how businesses truly work. Like, I see people talking about, oh, especially modern books. Oh, there's more out there than they lead you to believe. So what? If there are 10 million books and there are 11 million people that want those 10 million books, it no longer matters that there are 10 million books. What matters is there's only 1 million of people extra than those amount that want those books. 10 million, 11 million is the same as one book, two people. It's the same thing. If there's only one book and two people want it, those people are going to have to outbid each other to get that one book. So if you have 10 million books and 11 million people want them, that means there will be 1 million people that will not have access to those books and will have to pay higher and higher prices. Because how do you get somebody to sell something that they say they'll never sell? Give them more money than they'll ever be able to see for that book in their lifetime, and they'll 9 out of 10 times get rid of it in a heartbeat. Because if somebody wants something bad enough, and let's say your book is worth $500, but you won't sell, and somebody wants it so bad, and they have so much disposable income, they say, okay, your book's worth $500, I'll give you $5,000 for it right now. How many of you would sell that $500 book if somebody offered you $5,000 for it? You change your mind real quick. Not the smartest move, but if a Bill Gates came along and wanted a $500 book, let's say it's the only one that's in existence and it's worth $500, and he says, I'll give you 5,000. Well, that's like you dropping a penny out of your bank account. Doesn't matter to him. So what is $5,000 to him? It's a penny. My point is, there's always somebody out there. It's like when it comes to finding a soulmate or a partner. People worry about, oh, there's so many people out there. Who cares? You only need one. Unless you're into orgies, then you might need two or three more, but that's a story for another time. My point is, people so focus on these unrealistic and unusable and unworkable numbers for yourself instead of bringing it down to the lowest common denominator, the smallest point. I don't